Welcome, everyone, to CX Day 2021. I'm Gabe Smith, CCXP, and I'm the Content Manager and Associate Director for the Customer Experience Professionals Association, or CXPA. I am thrilled to be joined today by CX professionals throughout the Middle East as they share their perspectives on the critical issues facing CX pros today. This panel is part of CXPA's global celebration today of the global diversity of CX professionals, and it's one of 10 regional conversations that we're hosting today on social media, joining Africa, Asia, Brazil, Canada, Europe, Latin America, the Caribbean, Oceania, the UK, and the US. And a little later on CXPA's social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, we'll be revealing the winners of our 2021 CX Impact Awards. So you won't want to miss that. You also won't want to miss conversations that we're having on the future of the CCXP credential, as well as discussing some outcomes from our recent strategic planning sessions as we talk about how exactly we're moving the discipline of CX forward around the world and what our plans are for 2022 and beyond. So be sure to check out cxday.org for a full calendar of today's events. But let's get started, shall we? I'm excited to welcome today's panelists.
Happy CX Day to all the CX leaders in the Israel community. So happy to have you celebrate this for probably the 5th year with us. And I wish you all very happy year with lots of new experiences and welcome to the community.
Hi everyone, happy CX Day from Amman, Jordan. My name is Olga, I'm a CCXP, and I work for Aramex International. I'm the Global Head of Customer Experience.
Hello everyone, very warm welcome from sunny Dubai. Very happy CX Day to everybody in UAE, in Pakistan, and all over the world, all the experts, everybody who is enthusiastic about customer experience. I've 25 years in the field of customer experience with multiple organizations. Now I've started my own consultancy, CX Future. I'm the CEO and founder. Happy to be here.
Hi everyone, happy CX Day. I'm Ahmad Samir, Corporate Customer Experience Planning and Design Director in Telecom Egypt. It's the largest telecom integrated telecom company in Egypt.
Fantastic, and happy CX Day to everyone. It is so great to look at my screen and see all these faces. It's so great, and I'm so excited to join in the celebration today with you all, because I think what's great about CX Day is it gives us a chance to really pause and celebrate all that we've accomplished in the last year. You know, I think as CX professionals, one of the themes I've been noticing having these conversations with CX pros around the world is that, you know, we tend to focus on the things that we have not yet accomplished. We think about the process improvement that we have yet to make, the cultural transformation in our organizations or with our clients that we're still working to affect, the governance structure that we're still trying to get exactly right to enable the best customer-centric outcomes and positive business results. And we tend to think about that and not sort of take a step back to think, hey, we've actually accomplished a lot over the last year. And so today gives us a chance to do that. And so I want to start with each of you by asking, what is a CX accomplishment that as you look back at the last year, you are particularly proud of? So Faran, we'll start with you on that.
Thank you very much, Gabe. First of all, I'm very excited to be here. For me, it was a very special year because working as a corporate in the corporate world for 25 years, I made a transition into my own work, starting my own customer experience consultancy, which is called CX Future. I'm very, very happy that I'm now able to help organizations experience customer experience to a different level. I want to take it to the next level. based on the global benchmarks. CXPA has been such a inspiration as well, because CCXP has become such a important certification for everyone, and that is something I vouch for. Something that I'm very proud of during this time period. In 1 year, I was able to deliver the message of customer experience globally. I found myself on the social media, so I did multiple podcasts and talks, and talked about almost every aspect of customer experience. Personally, I was also awarded as the most experienced judge by Awards International. I did over, I think, maybe 15 events as a chair judge. So I think I became a big ambassador of customer experience globally, spreading the word of customer experience everywhere. I'm very proud of that.
That's great, Faran, and congratulations on your personal accomplishments. And I also love what you said about community, because I think, when we hear about the theme of CX as a team sport, we tend to think about our close collaborators, our close team members, and the people we're working with on a day-to-day basis. But what I love about the CX and the CXPA community is that it broadens that definition of what a team is and who's on your team, and that we're all driving together in the same direction for better outcomes for our organizations, for our careers, and for our customers. So I love what you said on that. Olga, over to you. What's something you're proud of as you look back over the past year?
There are so many things, actually, Gabe, but if I have to single out, maybe one thing is the strength of the CX team. So over the past year, we've really ramped up our capabilities. We've really understood what are the enhancements, improvements we need to do at Aramex. And it just brings joy to my heart whenever someone comes and approaches me, either on a personal or professional level, and gives feedback about our chatbots, our voice bots, or any other digital channels that we've improved over the past year. Another thing that was really impactful was our community of Experience Unlimited, which is a community of practice we've built in-house for people. I think that resonates with what you mentioned in terms of expanding the definition of customer experience professional. So it's not only people who are in the center who look at CX, it's everyone in Aramex who wants to be part of that. And we create a lot of content and engagement around that. And this is ramping up actually to a CX Masterclass, our very first one that we will be doing in-house, and where we will be encouraging people to be brand ambassadors to go out and seek out CX problems for themselves. So it's really coming together as a full picture, and it feels like a full circle of improvement that's happening. So I'm really proud of that.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned that positive reinforcement. That is so great. And also, kudos on the education component. Keren, I know that education is really important to you. You're a CXPA recognized training provider, so you understand, the value of, quality CX education in terms of driving your business outcomes. But would love your perspective on what you're proud of as you look back over a challenging year for many of us.
Yes. So first of all, if I need to relate specifically to the training, so obviously it will be trying to move from the face-to-face education to online, making sure as much as possible that we use the correct tools and create an experience during the learning, which is it's not obvious, because I know that at the beginning of the pandemic, many potential students said, okay, we are willing to wait because no one knew what will be the duration of the pandemic. We are willing to wait. We don't want to do any Zoom meetings. Let's wait until face-to-face will be available again. And for me, I think one of the biggest achievements, and also one of my strong beliefs is, and it's important to customer experience, is that you do your best with what you can. You don't wait for the optimal conditions. You don't wait for all the stars to align in the specific way that you want. You just do your best with the conditions that you have, because when it comes to customer experience, you can always wait for the optimal, but if you wait for the optimal, then not necessarily you will eventually meet it. So this is one take from this entire 1.5 year of the pandemic. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that I think for me, one of the biggest achievements was moving from doing things in the more strategic level, meaning more defining the CX vision and the CX roadmap and things like that, to concentrating more on implementation and on building the machine, the CX machine that operates the day-to-day activities in the business. And I've done this using XM platform. We implement Qualtrics with our customers. And I think this made a huge difference in the way that CX has a positive effect on businesses.
Yeah, great points, and I love especially your point about not waiting for things to be perfect, or as you said, the stars to align before you're looking to make positive change. So great point there. And Ahmad, I want to come over to you. What's a CX accomplishment that you're proud of over the past year?
Well, actually, the most accomplishment I'm proud of is establishing the CX function in my corporate. During the transformation period of being a full integrated telecom company, this was one of a kind experience and a very rare opportunity, having the chance to be exposed to all kind of business challenges in business transformation, change management, establishing a new concept, methodology, and redesigning the way people think to be customer experience oriented, pumping a new blood in terms of a new culture for driving the company to think outside in instead of inside out, giving the power to the customer to choose his preferred way of communication, leading the business based on what the customer wants. All this accumulated experience, challenges, and practical implementation on the ground was the most enjoyable part of my life, and that I'm proud of. A memorable experience actually that really made me proud of myself and the place I work in. Seeing your thoughts, your ideas, and even your dreams about establishing a customer experience culture, dreams come true.
That's fantastic, and congratulations on starting that journey. And I love that in spite of all of that, you use the word enjoyable, because
Yes.
there are times that's such hard work getting a new CX program off the ground, and so gratifying to hear that that's been such a positive experience. Congratulations on that great accomplishment.
Thank you.
And speaking of CX successes, we want to give a huge thanks to our CX Day sponsors, each of whom makes this panel and all that we're doing on CX Day really possible. This year, we've created online homes for each sponsor. These pages include some great resources, downloadable content, and even some really nice giveaways. Please take a moment to visit these pages and, of course, to thank these organizations for their great support of CX, CX Day, and CXPA. So I want to stay with you, Ahmad, on this next question. What are some companies? I think the beauty of CX Day is that we get a chance to hear about companies that are doing CX really well in regions other than our own. So I've been having conversations with CX professionals around the world and learning about companies outside of North America that are really focused on CX, and we can get to uplift and share those stories. So I'd love to learn about some companies in Egypt that are particularly CX focused that you would like to give some accolades to today.
Well, actually, let's first agree on something, the definition of CX focused, which is the real implementation of a full omni-channel strategy, including the digital strategy for a seamless customer-driven experience. Actually, the challenge is that most of the companies are still struggling till now in defining what is omni-channel full strategy and linking the dots between technology, automation, customer care channels, data analytics, and a full customer satisfaction measurement index that is associated with a full journey mapping and analytics. There are few successful baby steps that have been taken from a few companies, and I believe the telecom industry is the most successful industry that went so far till now. Due to the nature of customers being served, especially the millennials, who are considered the hugest segment, tending to be technology obsessed. The real challenge here is how to satisfy the needs of a very demanding large segment like this. And as I said, the telecom industry is the most successful and mature in this. In actually implementing a real customer experience strategy.
Yeah. Great points, really great points, and love to hear that perspective. Keren, would love yours as well. Are there some CX focused companies in Israel that you want to give kudos to this CX day?
Yes, so I think two industries come to mind when I think about what we went through. The first one is the healthcare providers. In Israel, there are like 3 or 4 main healthcare providers. And what they've done, Israel was the first country to get vaccinated for the pandemic, and the way that they managed the operations and really demonstrated the capability of building a completely new customer journey for masses of people, and do this in such an innovative way, combining physical and digital. I think this was extraordinary, and they had no one to learn from because, again, Israel was the first country to do that. And another organization, which I think really demonstrated being more customer-centric or customer experience, was the Israeli police, which again, during the pandemic, when we were in quarantine, they've done many very nice gestures to civilians. One of these gestures that was also posted on the community Facebook page was that they've had to check with the people about whether they are staying at home. And one of the people told them, yes, but my kids are bored, so can you bring a book when you come to visit? And they stopped during their travel, bought the book and brought it to the people that they wanted to visit. So it was like taking this awful experience that the police is coming to visit whether you're at home, and making it something very enjoyable.
That's really great, and I think it kind of sort of fits in this global theme that we've all been experiencing, as customers, as humans. Stress in the face of the pandemic, and the role that companies or private or public sector organizations play in trying to help alleviate some of those really difficult times. So glad to hear you call that out. Olga, what are your perspectives on some companies in your area that are particularly CX focused that you want to call out?
So just commenting on Karen's point, I think the pandemic has brought 2 things that were important. So one was uncovering certain personas that were not highlighted before, especially if you're looking at healthcare, or you're looking at certain users who would have opted for a digital experience. And then for organizations, especially if you're, a large organization, you have a lot of systems, a lot of integrations, it expedited the pace of development. So it spotlighted certain projects or initiatives that needed to come out within a couple of days or a couple of weeks instead of months or years. So that became, I think, one of the main accelerators of innovation. As far as who I want to call out and applaud, I think we are looking at a lot of great examples from the banking industry, especially banks that were historically catering for corporate clients, and they have shifted their strategy towards retail They've developed a lot of digital wallets, a lot of examples of where you can do almost all of your transactions virtually over the phone. Even you can even create a virtual credit card. The different payment systems. So that was, I think, very, very helpful during the pandemic. And even now, it's become part of the culture where people have started massively adopting it. I'm not sure whether the incentive schemes that are associated with those initiatives, I'm sure the experience is great, but I'm very curious to see whether once the incentive schemes go away, how will these initiatives perform? Because you will have varying difference of adoption. So that will be very, very interesting. The other industry that I'd like to pull out, and this is just a sort of blanket term for that, but I think startups, SMEs are doing an amazing job. One of the things is they don't have limitations that larger companies would have. So they have things that come out very, very quickly. They don't have, they're starting from a green field. So they're able to think of the customer, reinvent the experience, reimagine the journey in a very easy and simple way, yet very effective. That is always an example that we're looking up to be honest, even though they have limitations in resources potentially or etc., but they have the capability to start from a fresh perspective and to move things really fast. So I think those two industries should be applauded for the contributions they've been making to the experience scene.
That's a great point, in that those small startups are not necessarily burdened or hampered by everything that has come before, by the the tech stack that's already been built up, by the processes that have already been built that can sometimes stand in the way of delivering a really innovative experience. A really great point, Olga. Faran, would love to hear your perspective on organizations in Dubai.
Very interesting to hear all these points, and I think Keren, Olga, and Ahmad, but the points that they've made are absolutely, it's very difficult to identify one particular industry who's doing better than the other. These were very difficult times for everyone, and I think we have to start off by congratulating and saying special to all the governments who've done such an amazing job handling this, and even in UAE, the way they've handled the situation is so phenomenal, all the government organizations, to the extent now that on the 1st of October, we start the Expo 2020. And as I hear already, majority of the hotels are 100% capacity, which I could never think of just a few years ago, a few months ago. To specify a few, I think, yes, hospitality industry has done very well. But during this time period, one industry that came up was the delivery. The people who were delivering food to us, the people who were delivering different items to the people's houses when they couldn't get out, and commuting was so difficult. There were so many innovative ways that they adopted, and also here in this part of the world, the airlines have done such an amazing job. I think Emirates, Etihad Airline included, telecom industry itself has done well, and being a very hospitality-driven industry. Whenever I move to different restaurants and hotels, the kind of services that they've been provided with, all the protocols of the COVID, is such a remarkable thing that they've done. Absolute great job here.
That's great, Faran. And I think CX Day, we've talked about it being a means of celebration, but would also love to understand, what are some of the hot issues that customers are facing? I know we've talked a little bit about digital adoption, but what are some of the hot issues that customers are facing, that customer experience professionals are facing right now, that you want to give some attention to? Because, certainly the issues that CX pros are talking about here in North America may not be the same. So would love to get your perspective, going around to each of you, on what are people talking about? What do you think the chief concerns are as we head into 2022? So Faran, we'll stay with you on this one.
Yeah, I think the very important thing that has happened and that has triggered recently is the fast move towards digitalization. So every industry is now moving towards digitalization, and customers are taking their time. When I talk to the customers from the customer perspective, yes, organizations have done a great job and they've moved on the wagon very quickly. However, from a customer perspective, the adoption to technology is taking its toll. Yes, some of the new generation is quite tech savvy. However, the old customers, the traditional customer, is finding it difficult to move to that. Those are some of the issues that I see. From the organization perspective, half of their workers are now working from home. So the new norm is work from home. How to manage their workforce working from two different scenarios. Some of them are working from the office and the others are working from home. I think from a staff perspective, the motivation level, to maintain that motivation level is such a difficult and such a challenging thing for all the professionals. And that's when I talk to some of the CX professionals here, they say the biggest challenge is to motivate their staff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And trying to navigate sort of that tricky, hybrid workforce. I think, as you mentioned, that's a great point. Olga, curious your perspective on this. What are the concerns that you're hearing related to customers and related to CX Pros?
So in general, I think maybe not necessarily related to the expo, but in general, in terms of where we are now, there are a couple of things that come to mind. First of all, the carryover of expectations. I think the accelerated pace of digital and improved experiences has made such a crossover between industries. So this is raising customer expectations at 100 miles per hour. So if the expectations were changing every year, now they're changing every week because something new is coming up and they have this new experience. For maybe the delivery or the parcel industry in specific, because we're usually wide skill providers, so we provide for corporate clients, for consumers, for different types of receivers. So you see that intersection of personas, of customers who have similar maybe needs or different needs and perceptions that intersect. So for example, if I'm a consumer, but also I'm part of the corporate team deciding whether or not to use Aramix, I would rely on my personal experience in order to make that purchase decision. So we're having to align what the branded experience would look like on each of these elements for each of the personas, but also we're having to invest a lot in AI and machine learning in order to understand and predict customer needs according to their persona and potentially expand our customer understanding model in order to accommodate for those attributes that we wouldn't have normally looked at a few years ago.
Yeah, certainly hear you in terms of the pandemic accelerating some of those technological investments and the need for that. Keren, would love your perspective on this as well.
Yes, so I think that like 2 years ago when organizations, or maybe 4 years ago when organizations started talking about CX, they had like this roadmap of let's complete quick wins, now let's move to big bets. And I think that now, besides all the things that were already mentioned, I think many organizations now ask themselves, what's next? And it has to do with the first point that I raised. How do we not only move from one project to another, but how do we create a continuous improvement program that will be managed not only centralized, but in many other business units, how we progress in the maturity level of CX in the organization, and how do we keep finding new areas of improvement and making sure that we don't treat CX as a one-time project or let's do something huge necessarily, but all this tweaking and twigging and making sure that you're aligned in everything that you're doing and creating even these small wins when it comes to really being in another level of CX. So I think this is also one of the issues.
Yeah, organizational alignment, aligning the organization, absolutely. I hear you on that. Ahmad, what are you thinking about? What are your colleagues thinking about? What are customers thinking about related to CX right now?
Well, actually, the hot issues or challenges or what the CX leaders in the region thinks of. I think that they are talking a lot about real implementation of a big CX strategy, omni-channel strategy on the ground. As a part of a full digital strategy automation and even RPO and using artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence bots. Um, the issue is that they are thinking that automation and technology is the magic stick that will solve all the customer problems and will promote for a tremendous customer experience. However, all the surveys and focus groups in the region are showing that customers have concerns about their experiences and that they must have the power and option to choose their preferred channel of communication with their vendors or brands or companies. So companies should know that technology is just an enabler. It's not the ultimate solution. Technology will not be able to solve the customer experience issues unassisted. Transforming to real customer centric and employee experience is the secret ingredient for the smartest and the strongest future business and superb customer experience. So I believe those topics is what CX leaders are talking about now, and what the customers even are demanding in terms of providing more channels, choose their own channels to communicate with the companies.
You know, you make such a great point in all the technology discussion, and we often say at CXPA, technology is an amazing enabler, as you said, of fantastic customer experiences, but it is an enabler. It needs to be led by a CX professional who understands what it takes and can contextualize how technology will help to improve customer experience and enhance those customer journeys. So I love that that you made that point. I think it leads nicely into the next question, which is, you know, we talked about the fact that the theme of CX Day is CX is a team sport. And I think it's a great time to discuss what exactly is it that makes a great CX team. So, Olga, I want to come to you on that question. What makes a great CX team?
I think cohesiveness and alignment, and an inquisitive eye and team spirit. So I think one of the great things at Aramix is we're always allowed that space to learn, that space to experiment. So it doesn't feel like if you made a mistake, it's a big deal because you can always learn from that mistake. So that's one of the great things that I feel our CX team at Aramix is benefiting from. Plus, because they look at the global perspective, so they're able to deal with local stakeholders and enrich their knowledge. And usually when we try out certain solutions or we try out certain programs, we would try out in one location, learn from that, and then roll out. And this creates some sort of collaboration between the teams and what we call our local stations, where they can have their own geographical or demographic challenges that they always incorporate in the model in phase 2, 3 onward. So this creates a continuous learning experience for the team, and that makes for a great team here at the center, but also it creates counterparts that we can always rely on. And I think that's very important in an organization to have that connection between corporate and between local entities. And always that continuous alignment, because it's not something that happens overnight. You just drop the solution and you move on. It's something that you try out, you make mistakes, you learn, you build. It's an iterative process. So there's always that collaboration and discussion that's ongoing. And I think that's very important for the team.
Yeah, a couple of key takeaways there: cohesiveness and alignment, and this is not something that is built overnight. Great point. Keren, over to you. What makes a great CX team?
So I look at you said that the main topic of this year is that CX is a team sport. So I looked at the way that sport groups are built, and I think that first of all you need the coach, and in this case, I want to refer to the CEO as the coach of the CX team. And I know that in each organization, there is the CX leader, of course, and he's probably the MVP, the most valuable player. But I think that if the coach is not the CEO, I'm afraid that most CX efforts might end up to be very small, very niche efforts, and they will compete for other efforts like being more efficient. I see many times that CX competes against efficiency or digital transformation. In the cases that digital transformation is aimed more at efficiency than creating better experiences. So I believe that the first thing is that the coach should be the CEO. Then you need to build the group. And again, if I look at CX from organizational perspective, I think that the group needs to include the other VPs. Again, besides the CX leader, the sales leader, the marketing leader, the service leader, the support leader, the business operations leader, the regulations, the finance, obviously, so the HR. So I think that this is the group of people that you need to bring in order for you to win the game. And another part should be the fans. And talking about the fans, I look at the CX champions in the organization. And again, I don't mean the people that are a specific CX team participants, but the cross-organizational participants. And you need them engaged. You want them to be committed to achieving better CX at their specific business units. And you want them to really be a fan of CX and take this forward, because otherwise you end up with just trying again to move something very, very big. So if you don't have these fans that encourage you and that are looked at themselves as part of the team, then trying to make a shift in the organization is a huge, huge effort. So I think that if you build the organizational CX team, like you build it with sports, the coach and the players and the fans, hopefully I didn't forget anyone. So I think this will bring success.
Yeah, it's such a great analogy, and it works so well because, how many examples of failed sports teams are there that really start with the coach, and the new coach comes and team performance starts to improve. And so you think about, as Olga said, cohesion and alignment, and as you alluded to as well, that's really important and starts at the top. So great point there. Ahmad, love your perspective on what makes a great CX team.
Well, actually, my idea about making a great CX team is a combination of some core corporate values like collaboration and teamwork, real actions based on data analysis that is aligned with customer expectations. Um, in addition of a mindset and mentality that is dealing in a way of making it easy for the customer to do business with you. We should implant this in the corporate culture. Uh, Being very focused and clear as a whole team about customer expectations and consistency of experience, and building a strong employee experience is very crucial to make a great CX team. Again, building a strong employee experience is very crucial to make a great CX team. So, in order to do that, it requires some critical skills that should be in the team, like analytical and critical thinking skills, change management skills, because there will be lots of change management due to promoting for the CX culture. Communication skills is very, very, very crucial, and the strong leadership skills and skills of relationship building among and above all. Um, and there have to be a real commitment and will from the CEO to implement and ready to build a CX team or promote for CX culture in the company.
Yeah, really great perspective, Ahmad. And I want to go to Faran because Faran, I know you've had some experience building CX team, and so would love your perspective on what it takes to achieve this cohesion and alignment, and working across functions to collaborate and make sure that everyone is aligned. So would love your perspective on that as well.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a more holistic view, and I'm very happy that recently a lot of organizations have started understanding the importance of the organization culture. For me, the culture of the organization is the most important. This is a place where everybody understands their role in customer experience. There is a saying that if you go to the organization and ask anyone, let's say somebody sitting at the back office in operations, say, what's your role in satisfying a customer? And if the person says, I'm sorry, but I'm not somebody who faces a customer and I'm just a back-end person, then you should understand that you as a team have failed in delivering a customer experience. So everybody's role needs to be very clearly defined. One thing which I felt and which brought some success to where I was is that you need to involve all levels of the teams into decision making. Even when you're doing a journey mapping, for example, if you're doing a process journey mapping, you need to make sure that the people who actually deliver the service, like for example, if there is a teller or if there is a front-end person, that person needs to be part of the team so that they give the real perspective of how customers go through a particular process and what challenges do they come across when they're delivering that service. So you get both perspectives of a customer and the staff as well. I think the team is built up around the entire, from top to bottom.
Yeah, great points, Faran. And final question. We've talked about, what makes a great CX team. We've talked about some hot issues. We've celebrated some of your accomplishments. But, CX Day is also a chance to think about our own careers and how we can advance our careers, whether in our own organization or, other opportunities as well. And so I'd like to leverage your perspectives. What is one piece of career advice that you would give to a CX professional in your region? And so, Ahmad, I'll start with you.
Well, actually, I want to be more generous and give more than a piece of advice, but some advices that should be combined together to shape a successful career path in general and in CX specifically. Cultivate perseverance is very important actually for the CX member nowadays, as we know that CX is still a green field, and there are so many resistance for change and promote for the CX culture. Do what you say. Do what you say that you will do, and don't be afraid to speak up. Say yes to the things that scare you. For a general advice, specifically for CX professional in my region, please listen to your customers. Promote efficient voice of customer programs. Work closely and monitor your most important CX metrics like customer effort score, which I personally prefer, NPS, and listen carefully to customer comments. It will give you a great ideas, and it will give you really a great ideas about how to give a tremendous and a great customer experience.
Keren?
Yeah, so I really like what Ahmed said, and I totally relate to that. I had this exactly in mind, so I would again emphasize being optimistic about customer experience and show enthusiasm about this, but also being patient, because it takes time to see results. The one thing that I think CX professionals don't do sometimes well enough, and I think this is what I would recommend to focus, is to really tie the CX metrics with the business results. And this is something that you need to do on an ongoing basis. Always demonstrate the business value that you bring, because if you don't do that, you won't get the budgets, you won't get the attention, you won't get the priority in anything that you're doing. So, and sometimes it's very hard. It's not trivial showing the direct link as much as possible between being more customer focused and, as was already mentioned, employee focused, and to a customer, to the business results. But I think this is a muscle and the methodology that if you don't own yet as a CX professional, you must learn how to do this. It's not complicated. I can definitely say that I've done numerous things like that. It's not complicated, but it's something that you should practice. And this means really living the data, knowing exactly what you did and what it created in terms of the value that was generated to the organization. It could be better retention, it could be better share of wallet, it could be a more conversion, it could be all the business KPIs that are usually very interesting to the managers. So this is the one thing that I would strongly suggest CX professionals to own.
I think everybody needs to understand who's in this field that this is not a job. This is an art. Customer experience is an art. The most important thing for me would be the passion. Make sure that you are creative. Think out of the box. Try to find reasons to create and improve and implement accordingly. So passion for me is the most important thing. People who have really grown in this field are the ones who have passion for this field.
Olga?
I think just very briefly, I always say this, but it's very true. Done is better than perfect. As Karen mentioned, you cannot wait for the stars to align. You cannot build slide decks and just keep on presenting the strategic piece. You have to begin and start. You have to have that courage to make mistakes, because executives will appreciate that, especially if something comes out of this experiment. But if you keep your hands tied and wait until that perfect CX strategy comes along, that will be an issue. You will never achieve anything. The other point is have a thick skin, have courage of conviction, and don't have self-doubt. Others will have comments about the experience. They'll have comments about the approach. You'll have to have some kind of a logical way of dealing with different stakeholders in organization, understanding them, aligning, especially if you're working with a lot of people. So you'll be hearing maybe comments. So you need to have that courage and that self-awareness to reinforce your opinions. And also sometimes you might look at projects that are halfway through. So you want to have that courage and ability to intervene and provide the comments or the feedback that's needed for the experience.
Ahmad, Olga, Faran, Keren, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences and for your leadership in advancing CX across the Middle East. And if you want to get involved with CXPA events and you want to meet other CX professionals throughout the region, you can visit us at cxpa.org/Middle East, where you can create a guest account, you can stay up to date on happenings in the region, and heck, if you're interested in getting even more involved in the CX community and opening up your ability to access professional mentoring, opening up your ability to access discounted pricing on the CCXP exam, and to help shape the future of CX through professional involvement in work groups, there's never really been a better time to do it. Now through the end of October, you can take 20% off the cost of a new professional membership at cxpa.org using promo code CXDay2021. So we hope you'll join us. We hope you'll help us chart the future of CX in the Middle East and around the world. advancing this discipline that we all love so much and doing it together. Happy CX Day, everyone. Take care and have a great day.